Hi, this is Jim's Little Boat, and I, of course, am Jim. About a week ago, my buddy Tony and I decided we'd like to go to Gig Harbor, Washington. We really weren't that interested in Gig Harbor, but we wanted to transit the Narrows. I haven't been through there in about 50 years. The Narrows is a pass in southern Puget Sound, separates the southern basin from the middle basin. It's a half a mile wide, and I'll have to show you the chart because it's kind of an interesting little pass. Unless you're from Washington and you might have the opportunity to make the trip from Olympia on up to Gig Harbor, it's not going to be that interesting of a video. What's interesting is to know about currents and all the water. So this is the southern basin, Bud Inlet, Eld Inlet, Totten Inlet, Case Inlet. All this water collects down here in the southern basin, and 4 times a day it moves through the Tacoma Narrows. You may know about the Tacoma Narrows if you've ever seen video of the swaying bridge called Galloping Gertie that's still laying at the bottom of the Narrows. 4 times a day, all that water from the southern basin pours through there and develops currents about 4.5 knots twice a day, about 3 knots twice a day, and sometimes as much as 5 knots. That makes a really interesting voyage because that current can either work with you or work against you. And we'll kind of explore that notion in our little video. The first day we motored, second day we got to do quite a bit of sailing. So for whatever it's worth, here's our little trip to Gig Harbor. Hope you enjoy it. 5 in the morning, headed for Gig Harbor. Sunrise in about 45 minutes. And there is the Olympia shoal. We have the Olympic Mountains off the port. And over all the way around on starboard, hiding right behind that ridge is Mount Rainier. We'll give you a better picture of that soon. Briscoe Point on the south end of Hartstein Island. So this is a Stami Ledge and the entrance to Henderson Inlet, and we got a couple of dive boats out here today, looking probably for gooey ducks. Southern end of Anderson Island, waypoint number 4. It's a little shoaly inside the Dolphin, but we still got 50 feet out here. Lots of good weather. Steering tiller reminder from CD, Catalina Direct. It's just worth the price. Gold. We haven't hardly had to steer all day. We just point it direct now and then. Tiller boat. Kind of out here at Oro Bay on Anderson Island, and we're getting a little wind assist. It's kind of a nice thing. Moving about 3 knots. No hurry because the tide's at its maximum flow right now, and we don't want to get to the Narrows till noon. We are purposely taking our time right now and just poking along. We're about 2 or 3 miles from the Narrows. We'd like to get there at high tide so we get the favorable current out. It's very narrow and constricted. There's a lot of water that flows through it, and if you get there too soon, you could be bucking a 5 or 6 knot current. Washington has about 7.5 million residents, mostly clustered around this body of water called Puget Sound. And yet, if you get out here on a Monday, except for the prison where Dave Beck made famous, McNeil Island, you kind of feel alone. Feels kind of good. So there's the Narrows, a mile and a half, maybe 2 at the most ahead. Go through there, we'll hang a little left, we'll be in Gig Harbor. And the tide is slack right now, so we won't get the big whoosh of a ride, but that's fine. A little less adventure will be swell. A lot of water moves through this narrow passage. It has to drain all of South Puget Sound. Now right now, it feels like we're barely moving, but the GPS says we're doing 4 knots. So even though the tide has just turned and it's not quite slack water, we're moving forward at 4 knots. Amazing. I have to say, I'm feeling pretty good about clearance today. There's Point Defiance. If you go around that and turn right, you're in Tacoma. The approach to Gig Harbor, it's tight. Luckily we have a chart and a guy who's been there. The approach to Gig Harbor, quaint. Getting underway at 6 a.m. Heating yesterday's coffee, which is already at a boil. Tony's got the helm. Sky is gray. Water's flat. It's slack tide at the Narrows. Wish us well today. Heading back. Gray day. Here the motor's barely running and we're making 5 knots over the ground, and this is slack water. Imagine when the tide's really running. We're about a mile south of the Narrows, maybe a little less, and through the tactical genius of Tony, we are actually sailing. Yes indeed, ladies. Well, if you were looking at the water, you'd say we're hardly moving and the wind's died. But you know, we picked the right time of day to leave Gig Harbor, Washington, and we're making 4.5 knots over the ground just by sitting here. And we'll have that current with us most of the day. We want to go to the southwest, and on this one occasion, wind finder, wind guesser we like to call it, says the wind will be from the southwest all day long. So we're going to spend a lot of time tacking and sometimes sitting, but gosh, we're moving along. Tony's been playing the shifts well. Anderson Island Ferry. He was polite and went around us. Yeah, laughing. The clouds lifted, it's still coolish, and I don't know, we're probably making what, 4 knots?
Probably 4 knots. Going down Dana Passage to the west.
Yeah, the mountain came out, the sun came out, wind came up. We're knocking out about 3.5, 4 knots, and with a little bit of luck, we might just clear the point on this tack. Who knows? It could happen. Now there's something you don't see just every old day out here on the water. So we're on the last 4.5 mile leg of our little journey. The wind kind of teased us. It was blowing like crazy when we turned the corner at Boston Harbor. Now it's died down. I hope we can sail in all the way, but we may just have to fire up the engine again.